Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Avneet Shukla and with me is Aditi Lumba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says states reporting new coronavirus cases need to take proactive measures to stop possibility of third wave of COVID-19. WHO chiefs asked China to be transparent and open to cooperate in second phase of investigations into the origins of COVID-19 pandemic. European Union's disease agency predicts a sharp increase in COVID-19 cases with nearly 5 times by 1st of August. Indian Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla says complex nature of humanitarian situations around the world demands urgent attention of UN Security Council. Indian photojournalist Danish Siddiqui killed while covering clashes in Kandahar city of Afghanistan. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur expresses grief. Death toll reaches 120 after severe flood hits Western Europe. Hundreds are still missing. And in cricket, ICC announces groups for T20 World Cup to be held later this year. India and Pakistan placed in the same group. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also to help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask. Maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing. Focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today reviewed the COVID-19 situation with chief ministers of 6 states, including Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Odisha, Maharashtra and Kerala. Speaking on the occasion, the Prime Minister expressed concern over the rising number of COVID cases in these states. He said the states reporting higher new coronavirus cases need to take proactive measures to stop the possibility of a third wave of COVID-19. Mr. Modi said in last few days, around 80% of new cases have come from Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Odisha, Maharashtra and Kerala.
बहुत जरूरी है कि जिन राज्यों में केसेस बढ़ रहे हैं उन्हें प्रोएक्टिव मेजर्स लेते हुए तीसरी लहर की किसी भी आशंका को रोकना होगा। एक्सपर्ट्स बताते हैं कि लंबे समय तक लगातार केसेस बढ़ने से कोरोना के वायरस में म्यूटेशन की आशंका बढ़ जाती है, नए वेरिएंट्स का खतरा बढ़ जाता है। इसलिए तीसरी लहर को रोकने के लिए कोरोना के खिलाफ प्रभावी कदम उठाया जाना नितांत आवश्यक है।
Mr. Modi urged states and union territories to focus on micro-containment zones. He stressed on the need to focus on test, track, treat and vaccinate approach. The Prime Minister lauded the state governments for their mutual cooperation and learning best practices in their fight against the COVID pandemic. He said the country has fought the pandemic with mutual cooperation and united efforts. Mr. Modi said in the last 2 weeks, cases are increasing in Europe, United States, Bangladesh, Indonesia and Thailand. He said it is a warning sign for the country and to remind all the citizens that COVID-19 has not left us. The Chief Ministers talked about the steps taken to boost medical infrastructure and gave suggestions on dealing with any possible rise of cases in the future. World Health Organization WHO Director General Dr. Tedros has asked China to be transparent and open and to cooperate in the second phase of investigations into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic in China. He said on Thursday that investigations into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic in China were being hampered by the lack of raw data on the first days of spread there and urged it to be more transparent. Speaking during a news conference on Thursday, he said, "We owe it to the millions who suffered and the millions who died to know what happened." Tedros will brief the UN health body's 194 member states on Friday regarding a proposed second phase of study. China has called the theory of virus escaping from a Wuhan laboratory absurd and said repeatedly that politicizing the issue will hamper investigations. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that China is looking into the draft plan of second phase of study made by the WHO Secretariat.
The European Union's disease agency said today it was predicting a sharp increase in COVID-19 cases, with nearly 5 times as many new cases by 1st of August compared to last week's level. In its coverage area, which includes the EU, Norway and Iceland, the European Centre for the Disease Prevention and Control, ECDC, said it is expected to see 420 cases per 100,000 inhabitants for the week ending on 1st of August, up for just under 90 last week. The iconic Eiffel Tower is to reopen to visitors from today for the first time in 9 months, following its longest closure since World War II. The lifts of the Iron Lady, as the Eiffel Tower is fondly called, are said to whir back into life, transporting tourists to its 300-meter summit, ending a long period of inactivity caused by COVID-19 pandemic. The daily capacity of visitors is said to be restricted to 13,000 people, about half of the normal level, in order to respect social distancing.
India's cumulative COVID vaccination coverage has reached nearly 40 crore mark. As per 7 p.m. provisional report today, the cumulative figure stands at 39 crore 93 lakh 62,514. Union Health Ministry in a statement said that the new phase of universalization of COVID-19 vaccination commenced from 21st of June and more than 38 lakh 79,000 vaccine doses have been administered today. It said over 16 lakh 35,000 vaccine doses were administered as first dose and 2 lakh 11,000 vaccine doses were given as second dose in the age group of 18 to 44 years today. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
The centre is disseminating awareness of national helpline numbers for the benefit of citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. The helpline number of the Health and Family Welfare Ministry is 1075. The child helpline number is 1098. For senior citizens of Delhi, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, the helpline number is 14567. The helpline number of National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, for psychological support is 08046110007. Ayush COVID-19 Counselling Helpline number is 14443 and MyGov WhatsApp Help Desk number is 9013151515.
Welcome back to the World News. Indian Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla today said the complex nature of humanitarian situations around the world today demands urgent attraction of the UN Security Council. In his statement at the UN Security Briefing on protecting of civilians in armed conflict, the Foreign Secretary said the COVID pandemic has further exacerbated the situation. He condemned the killing of Indian photojournalist Danish Siddiqui while he was on a reporting assignment in Kandahar in Afghanistan. Mr. Shringla said India believes that the primary responsibility for providing protection and assistance in a humanitarian crisis lies with the concerned country and its national government. However, he said, international humanitarian assistance, when provided, must be given impartially. He added that India remains committed to preserving the principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality and independence in responding to all humanitarian situations. The Foreign Secretary said, terrorism further compounds the twin problems of violence against humanitarian personnel and lack of accountability. Access to new and emerging technologies has enhanced the capacities of terrorist groups to obstruct humanitarian action, including safe and unhindered access for medical and humanitarian agencies.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on India's quest for an expanded UNSC. In conversation with Veena Sikri, foreign diplomat and journalist Simran Sodhi.
Today we are discussing India's quest for an expanded United Nations Security Council. We have seen that the discussions for an expanded UNSC has been there for a while now, but there really doesn't seem to have been any real development forward. Ambassador Sikri, when we see these negotiations that have been going on for quite some time now, why do you feel it is taking so long for the UNSC to reform itself?
Well, this is a very, very complex question, and it is a question of very, very long standing. I'm sure you remember that way back in 1950, India was offered the permanent seat on the Security Council. In 1950 by USA, and in 1955 by the then Soviet Union. This was because at that time the Taiwan Republic of China was being taken off from its membership of the Security Council, and the Chinese Communist Party-led PRC was coming into the UN. And so there was a question of who would take that seat on the Security Council. At that time, India turned it down. Prime Minister Nehru turned it down. And so certainly since that time, this question had been pending because everyone in India realizes that that was a great mistake. India should have taken the seat at that time. And now we are trying very hard to get onto the Security Council. Right now, as we speak, why are we discussing this subject? It is a very contemporary and important subject today because as of January this year, India has been elected to a 2-year term as a non-permanent member of the Security Council. So for all of 2021 and 2022, India is going to be on the Security Council in a non-permanent category. And during this time, India has been planning and very carefully strategizing as to what their agenda for the 2-year term on the Security Council is going to be, and certainly on this agenda, gaining final approval for India's permanent seat on the Security Council is very high on the agenda. As we speak today, Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla is in New York, and he's going to be participating in very significant meetings of the UN Security Council. He's going to be there in those meetings. And from 1st of August this year, then 2 weeks from now, India is going to be president of the Security Council for 1 month. This is a rotating presidency of the Security Council. It goes in alphabetical order. And France is the president for the month of July. And on the 1st of August, India is going to take over as president of the Security Council. So we can see already that during the last few months, the government of India, the foreign minister, external affairs minister, the foreign secretary have all been planning very hard for this. And in New York, it is our permanent representative, Ambassador Tirumurthy, who has been actually strategizing and coordinating on how India is going to plan for this. Now, why is it taking such a long time, as you said? Because this has now become a very complex geopolitical issue. Nonetheless, it is worthy to recall at this point that all the existing permanent members of the Security Council, there are 5 existing permanent members, and of these 5, 4, France, UK, USA, and Russia have all supported, they have expressed full support for India's elevation as to the permanent membership of the Security Council. It is only China. China is the only existing permanent member of the Security Council who has not yet given approval and who is talking about a package deal and there's so many things to be done and so on and so forth. So this is one big complication that China is opposing India's permanent membership of the Security Council. We also know that behind China, it is Pakistan that is most vigorously opposing India's membership of the Security Council, and they had formed their own grouping in New York to oppose countries like India and Germany who were wanting to get the permanent seat on the Security Council. This is very complex. But let us at this stage look a little bit beyond that and see what is it that India has to do to convince people. And I think in this way, there is a grand strategy, it is an important strategy that India is building up to look at the issues. What are the aspects that India should be focusing on as they go about convincing the entire membership of the UNGA and the existing permanent members of the Security Council on the need to accept India as a permanent member. I think some of the important issues that I would like to highlight as this, and I think India will be working on them very carefully and very strongly. First is on counterterrorism. This is a very important aspect, and I think that India's presidency of the Security Council for 1 month in August, and as such during the next 2 years, and in the UNGA General Assembly, India is going to work very hard on this, trying to get world agreement on a global convention on counterterrorism, getting the definition of terrorism accepted by the world body, and working ahead to make sure that this terrible curse of terrorism and violence ends once and for all, and that we have in place a global convention on counterterrorism that will call out terrorism for what it is. Terrorism is a crime against humanity, and it must be recognized as it is and accepted as it is, and action must be taken by the world community wherever such acts and wherever such acts of terrorism take place.
Pastor Sikri, just to bring us to the thing that the UNSC has also been criticized very often of no longer being representative of the current world that we live in. The critique is increasingly that it reflects a world which is very post-World War II, and you have major countries like India, South Africa, Japan, which are missing. We've also seen countries like Germany and South Africa, they've also supported India in a push that the UNSC has to be expanded so that it represents the present world scenario. Do you feel that this is something, one, that the present members of the UNSC, the P5, as you had mentioned, recognize the fact, and two, as you had mentioned, that China remains the main obstacle to the reforms, especially to India's entry. Do you feel that China can be then convinced to change its position?
No, I must say that you are right, that yes, the world community does accept that, the present structure of the Security Council is frozen in time way back from the end of World War II, or maybe from the time of 1949 when the Chinese Communist Revolution succeeded. But having said that, this is something, yes, everybody can agree on that. But how do you move forward from that? That is what I was talking about, that when the world is recognizing, all the members of Security Council, including China, recognize that yes, something has to be done because we have to make a representative world body. If you don't have a representative world body, it will not work. It will not succeed. It will not be able to achieve anything. So this is there. But we are now, this has been there for the last several decades. But now, today, as India has a 2-year term as a non-permanent member of the Security Council, India is strategizing to see how we can take this issue forward. Because while the world in general terms recognizes that yes, this is all out of date, we have to change it, but how do you do it in practical terms? What are the principles you're going to put into position? Yes, people say India is a large country and so on and so forth, and a huge economy, maybe soon it will be the 3rd or 4th largest economy in the world, so we should be there. But just saying these generalizations is not enough to convince the world community to come on and support you. And countries like China keep doing, backbiting and behind the scenes talking about things against India. So, it's confusing. So that is why I was trying to tell you that we have already put in place an important strategy as to how we are going to convince the world community, including all the members of the Security Council, that the time is now. And that the time has come for India to be taken on as a permanent member of the Security Council. And this, I was explaining to you that there are 3 or 4 areas that are vital for India. And we have to show these areas in which India has major contribution to make. Either we have already made that contribution, or we are in the process of making the contribution, or we are working towards making that contribution. That is number 1. And number 2, that India's contribution is indispensable. It is vital for attaining the solution of that problem. And this is where I took up this issue of counterterrorism as being very high on India's agenda, because all parts of the world are suffering from terrorism. Europe is suffering from it, USA is suffering from it, Southeast Asia is suffering from it. Every country in the world is facing this problem of terrorism, and they are floundering that they're not able to find a solution to it. An effective manner of countering this, because today terrorism is a global phenomenon. It is happening all over the world. The same group, whether it is the Islamic State or it's Hydra-headed monster, it's everywhere. And, you put it down in one place, it comes up in the other place. So the only answer to that is to have a global convention on counterterrorism. And that is what India has been working on. And we hope through the next 2 years, by the end of next year, we will be able to convince the world community on this and have very much a position in place on counterterrorism. This is one very important aspect.
With these comments, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said India's focus in the last few years has been to rebuild links that were diminished by the colonial period. Speaking at a conference on connectivity at Tashkent today, the minister said the horizons extend from Vladivostok to the Gulf and East Africa. He added that the challenges towards Central Asia and Eurasia remain to be addressed. Since 2016, India has taken practical steps to operationalize the Chabahar airport in Iran. The minister said this provides a secure, viable and unhindered access to the sea for Central Asian countries, and its efficacy is now proven. He also said the formation of India, Uzbekistan, Iran, Afghanistan, Quadrilateral Working Group on the joint use of Chabahar Port is a welcome development. Indian photojournalist Danish Siddiqui was killed today while covering a clash between Afghan security forces and Taliban fighters. He was covering the situation in Kandahar over the last couple of days. Responding to media queries, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said Indian ambassador in Kabul is in touch with Afghan authorities. He said they are keeping his family informed of the developments. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur has expressed grief over the death of Indian photojournalist Danish Siddiqui. In a tweet, Mr. Thakur said, Danish Siddiqui leaves behind an extraordinary body of work. He won the Pulitzer Prize for photography and was embedded with the Afghan forces in Kandahar.
China has increased its diplomatic pressure on Pakistan as Chinese Premier Li Qiang has urged his Pakistani counterpart to hold accountable the culprits in what he described as a terrorist attack on a bus taking Chinese workers, state media said on Friday. According to state news agency, Li, the most senior Chinese politician to have spoken on the incident so far, spoke with Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan by phone on Friday. An explosion on a bus in northern Pakistan on Wednesday sent it hurtling over a ravine and killed 13 people, including 9 Chinese nationals. Li has reportedly asked Pakistan to use all necessary measures to investigate the incident and hold the culprits accountable. At least 120 people have died and hundreds more in Western Europe are unaccounted for after some of the worst flood in decades. Record rainfall caused rivers to burst their banks, devastating the region. In Germany, where the death toll now stands at over 100, Chancellor Angela Merkel has pledged full support for the victims and called for a determined battle against climate change. At least 20 people have died in Belgium. The Netherlands, Luxembourg and Switzerland are also affected. Some 15,000 police, soldiers and emergency service workers are at the scene to aid with search and rescue, while helicopters picked stranded residents from rooftops and tanks cleared roads of fallen trees and debris.
The Sensex and the Nifty today ended almost flat. Both stocks witnessed marginal losses amid mixed global market cues. A report from the Business World.
The BSE Sensex fell 19 points to close at 53,140. The NSE Nifty also slipped 1 point to finish at 15,923. In global equity markets, Asian equity indices traded mixed after Wall Street benchmarks extended losses. Japan's Nikkei 225 declined 1%, China's Shanghai Composite fell 0.7%, and South Korea's Kospi slipped 0.3%. On the other hand, Hong Kong's Hang Seng added but ended almost flat, while Singapore's Straits Times Index closed 0.4% up. European stocks were also mixed in intraday trade. Crude oil prices rose marginally. In intraday trade, Brent crude prices were trading around $73.60 per barrel. Back home, gold prices fell to 100 rupees at the multi-commodity exchange for August contracts amid a fall in gold prices in the international markets. Gold was trading at 48,200 rupees per 10 grams. Silver prices also declined around 470 rupees to trade at 69,210 rupees per kilogram for September contracts when reports last came in. And the rupee depreciated marginally by 2 paise to close at 74 rupees and 56 paise against the US dollar. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
In the special Olympic series of All India Radio News, today we will talk about Vishnu Sarvanan, who made the country proud by securing the Olympic quota in sailing. After preparing in Malta, Vishnu reached Tokyo on Tuesday. A report.
This time in the sailing competition, all eyes will be on the country's young player Vishnu Sarvanan, who has made the country proud by securing an Olympic quota in sailing. Vishnu qualified for the Tokyo Olympics by finishing second in the Asian qualifiers in Oman. In a conversation with All India Radio News, Vishnu shared how he developed interest in sailing.
पापा ने मुझे इंट्रोड्यूस किया इस स्पोर्ट में और जब मैं 9 साल का था तब सेलिंग स्टार्ट किया था। तभी से मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा क्योंकि ये बहुत करीब है नेचर से। तो धीरे धीरे मैं नेशनल चैंपियन बना। फिर उसके बाद YAI जो फेडरेशन है वो मुझे इंटरनेशनल के लिए भेज रहे थे, उसमें मैंने अच्छा किया।
Vishnu added that the top scheme of the government helped him a lot in his training. Best wishes of the entire nation are with Vishnu Sarvanan, and hopefully his boat will be at the forefront in the ocean of Tokyo Olympics. Diksha Saxena, Sports Desk.
तरह तू चल चूके ना निशाना लक्ष्य तेरा सामने है जीत के है आना.
The International Cricket Council today announced the groups for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2021 to be hosted by BCCI in Oman and United Arab Emirates from 17 October to 14 November. The groups selected on the basis of team rankings as of 20th March 2021. Defending champions West Indies are a part of Group 1 with former champions England, Australia, South Africa and 2 qualifiers from round 1 joining them. Group 2 will comprise former champions India and Pakistan, New Zealand, Afghanistan and other 2 qualifiers from round 1. 8 teams will contest the first round including automatic qualifiers Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, with the remaining 6 who booked their spot through ICC Men's T20 World Cup Qualifier 2019.
The Indian government is in touch with the South African government to ensure the safety of the Indian community facing uncertainty in the country. The Consulate General of India in Durban said today. Riots erupted in South Africa last week after the imprisonment of former President Jacob Zuma. Troops were sent to quell the unrest protest in a certain province. The death toll from riots in the South African provinces KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng has increased to 212. External Affairs Minister EAM S. Shankar also spoke to his South African counterpart Dr. Naledi Pandor, who has asserted that the early restoration of normalcy and peace was the government's overriding priority.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian says Afghans flee to eastern Turkey as Taliban takes control amid chaos. The Globe and Mail reports South Africa expands its military deployment to fight a domestic crisis years in the making. The publication also reports Biden administration to warn of growing risks to foreign businesses operating in Hong Kong. Washington Post writes Europe's climate plans could provoke friction with US. The publication also writes Lebanese Prime Minister designate resigns after 9 months of gridlock. Sputnik News posts damages visible from space. Chinese ships dump tons of human waste in ocean, report says.
A quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says states reporting new coronavirus cases need to take proactive measures to stop a possibility of third wave of COVID-19. WHO chief asks China to be transparent and open to cooperate in the second phase of investigations into the origins of COVID-19 pandemic. European Union's disease agency predicts a sharp increase in COVID-19 cases with nearly 5 times by 1st of August. Indian Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla says complex nature of humanitarian situations around world demands urgent attention of UN Security Council. Indian photojournalist Danish Siddiqui killed while covering clashes in Kandahar city of Afghanistan. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur expresses grief. That toll reaches 120 after severe flood hits Western Europe. Hundreds are still missing. And in cricket, ICC announces groups for T20 World Cup to be held later this year. India and Pakistan placed in the same group. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Ethiopia. And with that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.